I'm Ben Londergan. I'm the CEO of Group 1 Trading. We are the DPM in VIX Options, and we're a very heavy user of VIX Futures. I think VIX Futures are currently seeing amazing volume growth for two primary reasons. The first of which is that you almost can't turn on a TV without hearing someone talking about VIX and volatility. VIX is a great name brand, and it's the leading tool in the world for people to look at other people's expectations of upcoming volatility in the marketplace. The second reason is that since the financial crisis in 2008, we've seen a real interest in people wanting to hedge their downside exposure of their long equity portfolios, and trading VIX Futures is a great way to accomplish that. When you look at the growth and volume of VIX Futures, I think it really highlights the principle that volume begets volume. We've seen a massive growth in volume in VIX Futures. The top 3 trading days have all occurred in November. The 2 of the top 3 weeks in terms of weekly volume have occurred in November, and October was the second busiest month in terms of number of contracts traded. What that does is it attracts a lot of people who previously may not have been looking at the contract. So you have a lot of people who are trading futures in other capacities that when volume reaches a certain threshold, they become very interested in trading it. In addition, one of the things that's important to remember when you look at the volume in VIX Futures is that VIX Futures are 10 times larger than VIX Options. So to compare the two, you effectively need to quote-unquote multiply VIX Futures times 10. If you look at today, which is actually a good example where we set a record in volume in VIX Futures, trading 70,000 contracts, that would actually be the equivalent of trading 700,000 VIX Options. So one of the reasons we've seen a huge amount of growth in VIX Futures is that there's been a giant growth in volatility-related products. The 2 largest of those products are 2 ETNs traded by Barclays, VXX and VXZ. As a part of those products, they're structured so that you need to trade a futures roll in VIX Futures every day. We think that's been a big driver in terms of the volume growth of the product. If you look at the comparison between assets under management of those products and growth in the VIX Futures, it appears that there's a very strong correlation between growing that asset class and growing volume in VIX Futures. The liquidity of VIX Futures and bid-ask spreads continue to look very good. Today is actually a very good example with the S&P 500 futures down over 20 points. You continue to see very tight spreads with very good size represented on the bid and offer of the futures. There weren't very many times today when you saw wider than the minimum tick increment in VIX Futures, and oftentimes you saw double digit, which when you multiply by 10 again, shows very large size in the future contract. We feel like there's been a very positive impact to the growth in VIX Options from the growth in VIX Futures. As I commented before, with a more stable marketplace in the futures, more people are willing to lay liquidity in options on VIX, which again leads to the volume begets volume situation where with more volume displayed on the bid and offer in the options and the futures, more people feel comfortable coming in and taking positions in both products.